Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. So we're gonna do an informal Q&A series because I've been asked questions repeatedly over and over again on this channel that never really made their way into one of the formal Q&A sessions that I do when this channel reaches a particular subscriber benchmark, like the 1,000 subscriber Q&A or the 2,000 subscriber Q&A. So I wanna go back and I wanna answer some of these questions. For some of you who have been with me a long time, maybe you possibly heard me mention these particular issues in other videos that I've done, but I have tried to pick content that is fairly new. So hopefully, whether you're new to this channel or you've been around for quite some time watching me on YouTube, you will get something out of this. So we're gonna jump right in. First question that I've been getting a lot is, would you be willing to do a follow-up video about how to spot the difference between a reproduction item versus a fake item versus an authentic item? And when I first started this channel, I thought, you know what, maybe I should do videos like that. I kind of reversed course because every time I go to film a video like that, I'm brought back to an experience I had back in 2013. At the time, I was recovering from celiac disease. So because I was home or in the hospital at that particular time, because they really didn't know what I had a lot of free time on my hands because I really couldn't do much. So I would spend a lot of time on the internet, on collecting forums. And one forum that I was active on at that time, I'm not going to state the name of the forum, it was a forum devoted to vintage advertising collectibles, like vintage Coca-Cola signs, vintage Exxon signs, items of that nature that you would see on American Pickers. Well, somebody came on that particular forum and they posted pictures of a quote-unquote vintage advertising sign that they claimed to have found somewhere in the wild, and they wanted to know how to authenticate that particular sign and tell that it wasn't a reproduction, a copy, or a fake. So me and some of the more experienced people or collectors on that particular site took the time to educate that person into the differences of how to authenticate an original piece of vintage advertising of that particular type of sign and compare it to what would be a fake. Well, that particular person went and started making copies based on the information that we provided him. So ever since that experience occurred back in 2013, I've always been cautious to tell people how to differentiate between reproductions or fakes or authentic items without having some sound reason to do so. Now, I want to give a shout out. Rudy with Alpha Investments is wonderful on this particular topic when it comes to Magic the Gathering. He has done videos in the past where he has authenticated cards or factory seal booster boxes. And some of the criticism that he received in some of those earlier videos was that, well, you're not showing us everything, because he'll even say in the video, there's other ways that I can show you to authenticate these vintage factory seal booster boxes, but I don't want to give away all my secrets. I actually praise other knowledgeable collectors for doing that, because even if your channel has 99.8% of nothing but honest, well-to-do, respectful people, there's always that one bad apple that comes and ruins the bunch. And that's the reason why I don't like doing videos where I show you guys how to authenticate certain items, or I show you the difference between a reproduction or a fake or an authentic piece. It comes down to that. Will my outlook on that change over the coming months, over the coming years? It's possible. Depends on the collectible, depends on the collecting category. Depends if I see a collecting market where there are tons of fakes, where it's really hurting the average collector, then I may break that rule and actually do a video where I show you guys how to authenticate certain items. So that's always one of those things that is up in the air, but that's why really I don't do any of those videos at present time. Next question. Sean, do you ever think that heritage auctions are rigged? The answer is 100% no. Unlike eBay, anybody can log on to eBay. Anybody can log on to eBay and create 2 accounts and actually list an item at a very high price, use the other account to pretty much bid on that particular item or buy it outright, and then file a non-paying bidder report against themselves, and they can commit market manipulation. It is truly amazing to me that people will pick on the most reputable auction sites out there, whether we're talking about Heritage, Comic Link, Certified Link, Hakes, Morphe's, Cowens, I've heard it, Swan, even Christie's and Sotheby's, which do have their fair share of criticisms, guys. I'll be talking about that in just a bit. But what I want to state is, it always amazes me that all the respected auction companies out there that make you jump through hoops if you're a new bidder to bid any sizable amount on a lot of these items, whether we're talking rare coins, rare pieces of currency, graded video games, comic books, pieces of Tiffany glass, firearms. And always somebody will state, those auctions are rigged. There's no way that somebody paid that amount for that particular item. Guys, I can assure you, I have been doing this since the age of 12. I have decades of experience under my proverbial belt. There are people out there that have a lot of money. I'm talking a ton of money, and they don't mind spending it on some of these items, whether we're talking graded video games at present time, Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering cards, coins, comic books, firearms, rare antiques, rare pieces of antique furniture, antique glass, firearms, and the like, guys. It is not esoteric at that realm. You know, in an upcoming video, I'm going to reveal a little bit about the consulting work that I do and the type of clients that are drawn to alternate asset investing and or collecting. Most of these guys have very high net worths, even higher than mine. I mean, I'm talking significant millions of dollars, if not tens of millions of dollars. And at least 20% to 25% of their net worth is tied up in a lot of these esoteric or more thin markets in the antiques and collectibles trade, whether we're talking about rare antique furniture, art, coins, currency, firearms. A lot of these items, if somebody is born a collector, meaning they have the collecting gene, and they want to go after these items, if they have the net worth to do so, it's going to show in the items that they own and the items that they have stashed away. A lot of those collectors at that level, there's two types. There's the type of person who has really low self-esteem, suffers from narcissism, and really wants to brag to everybody or covertly brag to everybody. Hey, that painting that sold for $10 million, well, I don't want to say anything or I don't want this to leak, but I may have been the bidder on that. Wink, wink. Then there's the other person who is very confident in what he does, very confident in his approach, and doesn't want to draw attention to himself. So he'll go into the market, and if he can afford it, and he buys a $1 million, $10 million painting, even a $100,000 coin, he doesn't want anybody to know. He's already established. He's confident what he does. He doesn't care what people think about him. He just wants to own the item, whether as an alternate investment or because it's something that he enjoys. So when you see these items sell, rest assured, a lot of your top tier auction companies do vet the people. I'll give you an example. I'm not going to state the auction house, but back around 2010, I was bidding on a vintage toy collection, and I was starting to bid on a lot of high value items at this particular auction house. Now, this was a smaller auction house, but when I started putting bids in, the auction house immediately called me to make sure that I was serious about bidding on these items. And they actually made me certify that I had enough money and prove to them to pay for these items should I have won the bid. So a lot of these auction houses do certify the bidders, and they also vet a lot of the sellers. No auction house wants to work with a difficult consignor who's not happy no matter what price the item achieves. Let's face it, these markets are very speculative. Even on the coin side, the currency side, the antique side of the equation, and of course on the collectible side of the equation, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to sell these items at a profit. This is alternate asset investing. There's very few fundamentals. It is not comparable to Wall Street, because Wall Street, when you buy a stock, when you buy a bond, even if you invest in a mutual fund, you can break down the holdings or the assets that that company owns into something called net asset value, and that can give you a starting point as to how to appraise that particular company's stock, the corporate debt or bond that that company is offering, or if it's a mutual fund and it follows the S&P 500 index fund, you already have a pretty good starting point, and chances are an S&P 500 index fund is not going to go to zero. It can't. The greater economy would crash for that to happen. So what's my point? There's a lot of money on the line. and a lot of reputations are on the line with some of these auction houses. So they take that very seriously. They have a vested interest to protect not only their sellers, but also their bidders. And that can be very nuanced. That's a very difficult path to travel when you have to protect your own vested interests, the vested interest of your bidders, and also the vested interest of your sellers. Do certain auction houses, in my opinion, engage in market manipulation? Yes, they cross an ethical line in the trade. I'm not going to lie. I will not defend every single auction house in that manner. Have certain auction houses done some unethical things in regards to show bidding and the like? Yes, you can look at lawsuits from some of the major players in the auction market at present time and see what they were accused of. Whether or not it was proven, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to go down that path. But overall, a lot of these auctions, whether it's Heritage, Comic Link, Certified Link, Hakes, Cowan, Swan, Morphe, Christie's, Sotheby's, when you see the item sell for that price, it is a true bid. No auction company, no auction house is going to risk their reputation on a fake winning bid. It's not worth it. Like I said, it's truly amazing how people will accept the winning bid listings or completed listings on eBay, but they won't accept when Heritage sells a comic book for 120 grand because the previous record may have only been 80,000. I don't know what it is about the trade, but some of you guys really need to analyze that, because just because an item sells for a record price or even a record low price, I can name auction houses where they promoted items and they didn't even hit the high estimate. And a lot of those auction houses literally wiped the record from their website, which I consider to be extremely unethical in my opinion, but it does happen. So there's that. I'm going to leave it at that. That's my answer for you guys. If you want me to expand on it, let me know in the comment section below and I can do a whole video on that. Next question. Sean, with regards to Silver Age comic books, what are your thoughts on key books in CGC 7.0 or higher? For example, Fantastic Four 1, Incredible Hulk 1, Fantastic Four 5, X-Men 1, Amazing Spider-Man 1, Amazing Fantasy 15. Okay, one of the things you must understand when you analyze the market for vintage comic books. The market for vintage comic books has been in a massive speculative bubble over the last 10 to 20 years. And the two catalysts that are causing that, number one is CGC. When CGC came on the scene in 2000, 2001, it was a game changer. It was the first respectful third-party certification company devoted solely to comic books, and they already had credibility because it was owned and operated by the Certified Collectibles Group, who owns NGC and coin grading. So they already had that going for them, where they were considered a reputable company. The next catalyst that caused vintage comic book prices to explode, and in certain instances, modern comic books as well, was the handling of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and to a lesser extent, the DC Cinematic Universe. Now, why is that important? Because both those catalysts came together and created the massive speculative market that you're seeing now. Now, people ask me all the time, Sean, is the market established? Yes, comic books aren't going anywhere. Just like I've said this before, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, graded video games, vintage video games, they're not going anywhere. There's other risks in those speculative markets, though. So we're going to exclude them from the equation for the time being. Comic books, unlike graded video games, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, and vintage video games, are an established market if we're looking at pre-1975 comic books and earlier. The problem that you have, though, when you invest in these items, you must understand prices have accelerated exponentially in the last 20 years. So you are already paying a premium to get a book like Fantastic Four #1, Incredible Hulk #1, or any of these other keys in CGC, whatever grade it is. It doesn't even have to be 7.0 or higher. At some point, no asset class can go up indefinitely, exponentially. At some point, prices are going to level off or they're going to drop 5, 10, 15, 20%. When that happens, it's going to spook the market and more people are going to sell out of their high-grade collections. I'm telling you, because a lot of the people that are operating in this market, they are incorrectly linking investment-grade comic books with that of investment-grade coins with other high-end antiques. You cannot compare an established market which is what comic books are in most cases, again, pre-1975 and earlier, to a mature market and think it's going to follow in the same trajectory. Markets change. The only constant in the antiques and collectibles trade is change. So let me use this as an example. If you go back to the 1990s and you look at what you could have bought, an X-Men 1, an Incredible Hulk 1, an Amazing Fantasy 15, even in fine, very fine, or if you were lucky enough to find it near mint condition, the prices were less than 10% of what these items are selling for now, and in some cases, they were less than 5%. That's how much these books have accelerated in value. So you cannot use the mantra that collectibles always go up in value, because these books, a lot of them, the key Silver Age issues, were published in 1962, in 1963, even in 1964. And the 1990s would have been literally 30 years past that. Go look at the prices of these books in the 1990s and see where they're at today. The greatest price appreciation for these books was achieved in the last 10 to 20 years. This is why I always have to laugh at speculators who tell me, well, Sean, everything collectible goes up in value 20, 25 years later when the generation that grew up with it wants to buy it back. That is completely false. You must analyze the market more differently. You got to take a deeper dive in the market rather than just saying that. So that's where I caution a lot of collectors out there who may have what I call a moderate net worth, meaning somebody who's sitting on $250,000 to $500,000 may analyze this market and they go, you know what? I can risk 70, 80 grand on one of these key issue comic books. You can. However, is it really worth it for your financial future based on what I just told you? If the answer is yes, and you think Sean's wrong, all these books are going to keep going up indefinitely for at least the next 20, 30 years, by all means, do it. But if you sit here, you listen to what I'm telling you, and you go, you know what? There is an ounce of truth in what this Sean guy on this little rinky-dink YouTube channel known as Reserved Investments is talking about, then guess what? You got your answer. So the choice is yours. It's just like when I do consulting. A lot of you guys think when I do consulting, somebody comes to me and they go, Sean, what should I buy? What can I make money on? Those are not the clients I take, guys. I take the clients who have already been collecting for X number of years. They already have a passion. And all is what I do is I point out to them the risks, the rewards, the pitfalls, and possible, the potential gains. That's all that I do for my clients on the consulting side of the business. That's why when somebody comes to me and says, Sean, tell me what I should buy to make money, I'm like, I don't have a crystal ball, dude. What are you passionate about? Let's start there. If you tell me you're not passionate about any of these collecting categories, even the ones that have growth potential or the ones that are mature, then we have a problem. Maybe alternate asset investing, at least in collectibles and antiques, isn't for you. Maybe you should be in crypto. Maybe you should be in gold, silver, something else. Obviously, if you don't have the collecting gene, what I call the mantra to collect, collectors are born. They're not made. You cannot convince little Timmy to be a collector if little Timmy doesn't have that drive, that passion, that desire to collect, that desire to put together a scarce collection of items that either he's passionate about and or will potentially go up in value. If that's not there, you shouldn't be in this business. I'm going to be very honest. This is a very brutal business. The market will reward or punish you at will. It is one of the last remaining free market systems in the known world at present time, in all honesty. If you look at regulation, whether you're a capitalist, socialist, somewhere in the middle, I don't care. But I'm telling you, the antiques and collectibles trade is a very brutal marketplace. And there's a lot of people, and I see this on their YouTube channels, I see people on collecting forums, they have a speculator mindset. They're the people, 90% of them to 95% are going to get wiped out at some point. They're not going to make it. Or if they do make it and you compare their gains against the overall stock market or an S&P 500 index fund, guess what? They would have been better off taking all that money that they put in these illiquid assets, which is what the antiques and collectibles trade is, and put them to work for them over the years. And that's really what I preach on this channel. It's common sense in a certain way. I understand that a lot of people out there that may not have this knowledge Consider it common sense, and I don't mean to sound egotistical against any of those people. I'm not. I am just teaching this the way that I succeeded in the marketplace and also how it was taught to me. So that's all I can do on this channel. I cannot control anybody's actions or behavior. Good question. Next question. Sean, your videos can come across a bit biased at times with making it seem like you're equating coin and antique collecting with sophisticated collectors and investors and video game and Pokemon collecting with Timmy Poindexters. I chose this question specifically, guys, because I do want to respond to this criticism now that we're 20 minutes into this video already. I will state one of the things that I'm seeing on the collectible side of the trade is a lot of uneducated speculators. Very few uneducated speculators decide to enter the coin collecting market and plunk down $5,000 for a rare coin. The reason why a lot of unsophisticated speculators operate on the collectible side of the equation is because the barrier to entry is quite low. And to be fair, it has to be that way. That's how we get new collectors who have the collecting gene, who are born with that propensity to collect, coming into the markets, and that's what props up a lot of these markets. You know, I have nothing against speculation. Gordon Gekko, one of my favorite fictional characters from the movies Wall Street and Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, once said, speculation is the mother of all evils. I agree with that, and a lot of people can learn a lot from that. However, if you understand how to make speculation work for you, you can make a lot of money in these markets. That's why I have nothing against Rudy with Alpha Investments, or SM Pratt, Scott Pratt, who does Pokemon, or even some of these other guys who there's too many of them for me to name on this channel. I engage in that type of behavior. Believe me, guys, I'm right in there with them and with other market participants. I'm going after some of this stuff, and I do make money. But the problem that I have is a lot of your unsophisticated speculators come into these markets, and they don't understand the risk. They do not understand the potential failure rate, and they don't understand opportunity costs. When you compare a lot of these markets to even working at Chick-fil-A for $15 an hour, or whether we're comparing it to the greater stock market as a whole. This goes into the Lego side of the trade. There's a lot of people that speculate on Lego. I see a lot of people speculating on Lego, where if you break down the hours they work versus how much money they literally make $3 to $4 an hour. Now, I don't know about you. If I would tell you guys what I bill out sometimes in antique and collectible consulting, depending on what I'm doing, it could be anywhere from 20 to 40 to sometimes all the way up to $100 per hour, guys. I am not going to work for $3 to $4 an hour. I'm not going to even work for $8 to $10 an hour in a business that I may quote unquote enjoy. It's not worth it to me. Now, you out there watching this channel, I don't know where you are in your life. If you're in high school, if you're struggling to make your rent payment and you're in college getting an education, maybe $8 to $10 an hour is a lot for you. So if you can learn one of these markets and you can get it to the point where as long as you work in that particular business and you can push forward, maybe you can get it 8 to 10, 10 to 12, maybe $10, $12 an hour is a lot to you, and you don't want to work for Chick-fil-A or Wendy's or McDonald's or Walmart or Amazon, whatever. That's up to you to decide. But what I am telling you, when I break down the numbers, I had somebody come in through my consulting business, and I incorrectly took them on as a client, and I shouldn't have. And I'm going through their numbers, and I'm like, dude, you keep touting that you're running this business. I'm not going to state what it deals with. I don't want to give too much information away. I break down your numbers. You're making $5.70 an hour. Minimum wage in most states in the United States on the low end is what, $7.25, $7.50 an hour? I mean, come on. Just because you like doing something doesn't mean it's worth it overall. So that you can put on your online dating profile, I'm an entrepreneur. Well, any woman you get with who looks at what you have and what you're doing isn't going to go, well, at least he's following his passion. She's going to sit there and go, you know, I'm educated with 2 degrees. I'm dating a guy who's making $5.70 flipping a speculative collectible on eBay. Now, to be fair, we all have to start somewhere. Okay, I'm not telling you if that's your situation, you break down the numbers and they do come out to that low amount to give up the business. But what I am telling you, you got to put it in perspective, guys. Again, I've said this before. Right now, you can get a job Chick-fil-A, Taco Bell, some of these places will pay you $12, $13, $14, $15 an hour to do the bare minimum, where you can work 4-hour shifts. That would be more respectable than going into some of these markets, working your proverbial asses off for 40, 50 hours a week on top of working a full-time job, breaking down the numbers and going, oh my God, I'm making peanuts. If that is your predicament, you really have to analyze what you're doing wrong. Is it a viable long-term business? And that's what I spend a lot of time doing as well on the consulting side of the trade, where I work with people who tell me, Sean, this is what I made, this is how many hours I've worked. And some of these people even try to lie to me. And they say, Sean, I'm only working 10 hours in this business a week, and I'm breaking down the numbers to do all this. You're doing all this in 10 hours. There's certain time that is not accountable here. You have to go back and you got to analyze this and be honest with me so I can help you further. Because there are people, I'm going to be very honest, that if they want to do their passion, they will spend as much time as it takes with little reward. And in my opinion, at some point, there has to be a cutoff where you say, okay, this is not a viable business. I got to cut the cord. I got to do something else. So I hope that answers why I am the way I am when it comes to unsophisticated speculators who do not look at all the costs, the risk versus reward ratio, and also the opportunity costs and potential gains that they could get just from putting money in the stock market, as opposed to taking on all this work and burdening themselves with more risk and more stress. It's just like I'm going to be doing videos. A lot of people are reaching out to me, Sean, should I open up a retail store? I want to open up an antique shop. I want to open up a collectibles shop. I want to open up a game store. I want to open up a comic book store. I want to open up an arcade. I want to open up a museum. All these questions keep funneling to me. And I'm like, no, guys, even before Corona, before the pandemic, it was a bad idea. Well, I'm going to have to do some more in-depth videos on that. I haven't done any as of yet. I did the one on museums, why that's a bad idea. I haven't really ventured out into other realms though, because I think a lot of other YouTubers already answered the question brilliantly. And again, I'm going to point to Rudy with Alpha Investments. I think one of the video game YouTubers did an excellent video on why you shouldn't open up a video game shop. I would have to go back through YouTube and see if I can find it. But I would like to also give my 2 cents on that particular idea and why it's flawed. Right now, a lot of people are going after vintage video games and they're trying to combine it with a restaurant or a bar. And again, I consider that a horrible idea. Be very careful. If you're in New York City, if you're in Philadelphia, Seattle, certain states, certain cities are better for that, but you have to take in the risk now with the pandemic. You also have to understand insurance costs. You have to understand rent costs. You have to understand, what if COVID-20, and I'm not saying there is a COVID-20, right now we only know of COVID-19, but what if there is a COVID-20 that emerges in the next coming years? It's a risk that you got to assume if you're going to go into retail at present time. So again, I'll talk about that in other videos. We're now 28 minutes into this video, so I just want to touch on some other points because I didn't anticipate this video being 30 to 40 minutes, which is what it's going to end up being. Sean, vintage YuGiOh will always be a great investment. Anytime you talk about a speculative asset, and I don't even care if you're talking about currency, coins, firearms, antique glass, Magic the Gathering, comic books, Pokemon, vintage toys, don't ever use the term always. Always denotes an absolute. There are no absolute in speculative markets and the antiques and collectibles trade. The only constant, said this before in this video, the only constant in the antiques and collectibles trade is change. So you telling me that vintage YuGiOh will always be a great investment is utter BS. Now, to be fair, if you want to look at the market for YuGiOh, we have to analyze the greater collectible card game market as a whole. So let's do that for a minute. What are the top 2 players in the collectible card game space? Magic the Gathering and Pokemon. Now, if you're well invested, you're versed in those markets, and you want to add YuGiOh to your holdings as a way to diversify, that's fine. I have nothing against that. Maybe you have a passion for YuGiOh. That's good for you. But overall, does YuGiOh really compare to the level that Magic the Gathering and Pokemon have achieved on the market as a whole? The answer is no. Now, are there certain cards, certain factory sealed booster boxes from YuGiOh that are comparable to rare Magic the Gathering and quote-unquote rare Pokemon cards? The answer is yes. But when you analyze the market, Pokemon is always going to be a distant third to those two top tier players in that particular market. So be careful when you use the word always. Next question. I have been sitting on a bunch of Alpha Power 9 cards in near mint condition, going back and forth on getting it graded. I just don't know because the game itself has gotten boring. Now, to be fair, guys, this could be a troll comment. I don't know. I'm not analyzing anybody's, how do I want to say this, anybody's reasons for leaving me a comment like this. Obviously, the majority of you out there who collect Magic the Gathering, or at least have heard of Alpha Power 9 cards from Magic the Gathering, know that if they're truly in near mint condition, they would sell for a significant premium on the secondary market at present time. So if this person is legit, I do want to answer his question. I would get them graded. You can either send them to PSA or BGS. To be fair, right now, Magic the Gathering, a lot of that market is kind of tied into BGS grading at present time, where Pokemon has really adopted PSA grading. So you're probably going to want to go with Beckett, and once they come back, you can consign them to PWCC. There's a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people out there that will buy them outright if you don't want to consign them to an auction. But that is my advice. If you really think that the game has gotten boring and you don't want your cards, by all means, get them graded and then sell them. Do not hold on to something you're not passionate about, because over time, we don't know what these markets are going to do. Now, to be fair, I truly believe that most vintage, reserve list, high-end cards, your Power 9, your libraries, your Moxes, which really is Power 9, or your Bazaar of Baghdad's, all those cards are going to be coveted going forward. I truly believe that. I just don't know what price point they're going to stabilize at. I don't know if there's somebody out there that does have, binders full of Arabian Nights cards or Legends cards, and eventually they're going to send them to get graded. They're going to come into the marketplace, and supply at some point may very well overtake demand. That is a possibility, just being honest. But with alpha condition Power 9 cards, let's be real, there's only X number known in existence. So I would advise you to get them graded, send them in for grading, and then either sell them outright, or if you want to go through PWCC, they're very reputable. They will get you top dollar for that particular collection. One more question I want to take, and then we may do a part 2 to this. I haven't decided yet. What I may do is let this video linger out on YouTube for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then come back and do a part 2. But I do want to answer this one last question. Sean, what do you suggest is the best way to value graded video games? Well, it goes back to market manipulation. You can look at completing listings on eBay, but just know completed listings on eBay are very easy to manipulate, guys. You have to take those listings with a grain of salt. The other way that you could value those games is through heritage auctions. Believe it or not, heritage auction listings and completed price listings on heritage are much more accurate than eBay. I know a lot of you like to disagree with that, but it's much easier to influence the market by using 2 eBay accounts and just either bidding or buying on your own art item through market manipulation than it is to do that on heritage. Heritage has ways of catching that, and actually they will in some cases, they will pull the item if they see too much shill bidding, if they see something is going haywire, or they will outright cancel bids. If you don't believe me, the Nintendo PlayStation prototype system that sold, if you look at the bid history of that item, there were bids that were canceled because Heritage didn't feel comfortable with certain people who were putting bids on that particular item. So ironically, in this case, a lot of your more respected auction houses get the nod over looking at completed price history through eBay. So that's the last question I'm going to answer in this Q&A. I hope you enjoy these mini Q&A sessions that I do. If you don't, let me know in the comment section below. Please consider liking, subscribing, or leaving feedback for these particular videos or any videos that I release. Thank you for watching. Have a great night, and please stay safe.